Participants Ethan presents arguments that vaccines cause autism, the pro-link side. Caleb presents the scientific consensus that vaccines do not cause autism. Ethan, parents aren't imagining things. Many say their child regressed after vaccination, especially around the MMR schedule. We can't just wave that away. There was a published paper in a top journal that raised this alarm. Even if it was retracted later, it reflects what families observed. Caleb, personal stories matter, but causation isn't decided by timing or anecdotes. Autism traits typically become noticeable between 12 and 24 months, the same window as key vaccines. That's classic correlation versus timing confusion. When we test the hypothesis with large, well-controlled studies, national cohorts, sibling comparisons, meta-analyses, the signal is consistently null. Ethan, but there are analyses suggesting increased autism risk in certain subgroups, and thimerosal was once used as a preservative. Doesn't that warrant concern? Caleb, concern got tested. Hard. Multiple prospective and retrospective studies examined thimerosal exposure and neurodevelopmental outcomes. They found no association with autism. On subgroups, the strongest designs, like the sibling-based study, looked specifically at kids already at higher familial risk and still found no link. If there were a genuine causal effect, those designs are where you'd expect it to show up. Ethan, what about biases in these big studies? Industry influence, government pressure, or subtle data choices that bury effects? Caleb, that's why we value replication across independent teams, countries, and methods. We have cohorts from Denmark, California, the UK, meta-analyses pooling results, and different designs. Case control, cohort, sibling designs. They converge on the same conclusion. It's extremely unlikely that diverse teams, journals, and data sources all missed a real effect of meaningful size. Ethan, still, the retracted paper you're alluding to spurred a lot of these questions. It wasn't just internet rumor, it passed peer review at the time. Caleb, and was later retracted for good reasons: undisclosed conflicts, ethical violations, and methods that cannot support the claim. Science self-corrects. The paper's demise isn't an establishment cover-up, it's quality control. Keeping it alive as evidence is like citing a building code that's been revoked for structural failure. Ethan, parents also mention regression. Kids who were talking and engaging, then suddenly lost skills after a shot. Isn't that too coincidental? Caleb, regressive autism is a recognized trajectory. Many regressions are noticed in the second year of life, which overlaps with vaccination schedules. If vaccines drove regression, we would see autism prevalence plummet when thimerosal was removed or schedules shifted. We didn't. Instead, diagnoses rose due to better screening, broadened criteria, and increased awareness. The timing overlap is compelling emotionally, but it doesn't survive rigorous analysis. Ethan, what about the idea that even if vaccines don't cause autism broadly, they might trigger it in susceptible children, say with certain immune profiles? Caleb, that hypothesis has been examined. Large studies looked for effects in subgroups, siblings of autistic children, kids with specific risk markers, and found none. Could there exist a vanishingly rare interaction? In biomedicine, you never say zero, but if the risk were clinically meaningful, repeated large studies would have seen a pattern. They haven't. Ethan, you keep referencing large studies, but sometimes big data sets hide small effects. A small increase could be drowned out and still matter to thousands of families. Caleb, That's why we use power analyses and precision estimates. The confidence intervals in those studies are tight enough to rule out anything but a very small effect. So small, it can't explain the narratives or the public anxiety. And remember the risk-benefit equation. Vaccines prevent measles, rubella, and other infections that do cause seizures, encephalitis, and long-term neurological damage. Trading those known risks for a hypothetical, near-zero effect doesn't make sense. Ethan, but the public mistrust isn't just about data. It's about communication failures, people feeling dismissed when they raise concerns. Caleb, I agree. Dismissing parents is counterproductive. The right approach is respect plus evidence. Listen, examine concerns, and then walk through what robust studies actually tested. Also, be transparent about side effects that do exist: fever, soreness, extremely rare allergic reactions. So trust isn't eroded by pretending vaccines are risk-free. They're not risk-free, they're net benefit positive by a mile. Ethan, another factor is the autism community itself. Some autistic adults say focusing on vaccines distracts from services, inclusion, and support, but others feel we shouldn't shut down any potential avenue of causation. Caleb, pursue real avenues: genetics, prenatal factors, early brain development. That's where the signal is. Decades of vaccine research have diverted energy from supportive services and evidence-based interventions that improve quality of life. Holding on to a disproven causal story costs families time and resources. Ethan, suppose a parent remains unsure. What would you tell them beyond trust the studies? Caleb, 3 things. Independent replication. Multiple top-tier teams across countries tested the vaccine autism link. Results align. No causal signal. Natural experiments. When thimerosal was removed and schedules adjusted, autism rates didn't fall. That's powerful, real-world evidence. Known disease risks. Measles and other infections carry real neurological harms. Vaccines cut those dramatically. If a parent remains worried, discuss a standard schedule with their clinician and ask for evidence-based materials, not message board screenshots. Ethan, you've made a strong case on the science. I still think institutional trust needs rebuilding. Clear data dashboards, open safety monitoring, and honest engagement with skepticism. Caleb, agreed. Confidence follows competence and transparency. Keep publishing safety data, invite independent audits, and communicate in plain language. But on causation, we should be unequivocal. The best available evidence says vaccines do not cause autism. We owe families clear answers so they can focus on what does help: early screening, supportive therapies, and inclusion. Ethan, then maybe the common ground is this: listen to concerns, provide rigorous evidence, and keep institutions accountable. Even if we disagree about some narratives, we can agree on supporting autistic people and preventing dangerous diseases. Caleb, exactly. Center families' needs, keep kids protected from real threats, and invest in the services that actually improve outcomes.